Tonight, deepening division in Team Canada.
Every single premier other than Danielle Smith then chose to put Canada first.
Alberta publicly facing off against Ottawa and the premiers, with Trump set to take office in just 4 days. Mark Carney makes his case to replace Justin Trudeau.
I am going to be completely focused on getting our economy back on track.
He comes out swinging against Pierre Poilievre.
He's out chasing endorsements from Donald Trump.
And backs away for the carbon tax. From tariffs to Liberal leadership at issue, we'll tackle it all. And breaking tonight, Israel says the ceasefire deal with Hamas is officially signed. After a day of concerns, it might fall apart.
From CBC News, this is The National with Chief Correspondent Adrian Arsenault.
Thank you for joining us. The Foreign Affairs Minister is in Washington tonight, warning Canada will fight back against Trump's tariffs, but a battle over what that could look like is deepening divisions here at home. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith refused to side with the rest of the premiers and the federal government, sparking a fight about what a Team Canada approach should look like. The Prime Minister, the Leader of the Opposition, and even new Liberal leadership candidate Mark Carney weighing in with some tough talk. And with Donald Trump's inauguration just days away, stakes are high. Kate McKenna shows us what is dividing Canada's political leadership.
Days before Donald Trump takes office, there's a big hole in Team Canada.
I don't blame Danielle Smith for speaking up for her industry. That's part of her job. But every single premier other than Danielle Smith then chose to put Canada first.
I respect Minister Smith, but I just believe in Canada comes first.
Danielle's going to do what she needs to do what she believes she needs to do to protect the people of Alberta.
Canada's premiers met this week with Justin Trudeau, hoping to emerge united on how to deal with Donald Trump's tariff threat.
We are less than a week away from the inauguration of President-elect Trump, who has made repeated declarations of economic war on Canada and British Columbia.
But Alberta Premier Danielle Smith refused to sign a joint statement criticizing Ottawa for floating the idea of cutting off energy supply to the U.S., calling on Trudeau to stop threatening the livelihoods of tens of thousands of Albertans.
We've had a federal government that has effectively piled on the energy sector. If you're not going to use this moment from her position to say, hang on a minute here, I have some issues, and good for her for raising them.
Justin Trudeau fired back, saying Canadian taxpayers recently spent $34 billion on a pipeline.
The Canadians know the importance of standing up for each other. That's why Canadian taxpayers bought the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion.
Liberal leadership candidate Mark Carney also took a swipe at Smith and the federal Conservative leader.
Sending Pierre Poilievre to negotiate with Donald Trump is the worst possible idea. I can think of one other politician I might not send.
Pierre Poilievre accused the federal Liberals of sowing division.
They're resorting to dividing our people, divide and conquer.
But when Pierre Poilievre was asked whether he'd use Canadian energy exports as leverage in a trade war, he didn't answer the question.
Okay, so Kate, some federal ministers are traveling to the United States trying to change Trump's mind. What's your sense of how that's going?
Foreign Affairs Minister Mélanie Joly is meeting with U.S. lawmakers, and she appeared on CNN warning Americans that Canada will retaliate if Trump carries out his threat. Two other federal ministers crossed the border this week trying to sway American politicians, but we know that Canada is also preparing for whatever happens next. The Prime Minister has said he's open to some sort of subsidy program for businesses and workers affected by the tariffs.
Okay, big days ahead. Kate McKenna in Ottawa, thank you.
You're welcome.
So it's in the middle of all of that federal Liberals are also trying to choose a new leader. And former Bank of Canada Governor Mark Carney is now officially in the running. As Ashley Burke explains, he says he's the person to take on Pierre Poilievre in the next federal election.
Mr. Mark Carney!
After months of speculation about his political ambitions, Mark Carney is now officially entering the race for Liberal leader.
I'm doing this because Canada is the best country in the world, but it still could be even better.
The former governor of the Bank of Canada and England promising to build the fastest growing economy in the G7 if he's elected.
I am going to be completely focused on getting our economy back on track.
Carney launching his campaign in Edmonton, near the outdoor rink where he played hockey growing up, trying to emphasize his roots in Western Canada while promising his party change.
I know I'm not the only Liberal in Canada who believes that the Prime Minister and his team let their attention wander from the economy too often.
Carney, who has never been a politician, now has to prove he can take on Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre.
This is no time for politics as usual. No, it's not the time for lifelong politicians such as Pierre Poilievre.
MPs and supporters behind him say Carney gives them hope for this year's election.
I think he has the economic experience which we need right now.
I think he's one of the smartest people in the room, so I have my trust in the Liberal Party right now.
But on the streets of Edmonton, the reaction much more mixed.
I don't know how easily he'll be able to persuade Albertans or the West to see him as something other than the Liberals.
Yeah, he's an actual federal leader I could maybe get behind.
His history as a banker does concern me a little bit.
Carney has called himself a political outsider, but he has advised the Trudeau government. Conservatives don't want voters to forget that.
You know, in 2020, Carney started advising Trudeau on economics, right when Freeland became the finance minister. And what has been the result?
Many Liberals view Chrystia Freeland, the former finance minister, as Carney's biggest opponent in this leadership race. And they know each other well. They are longtime friends, and Carney is her son's godfather.
And Ashley, Liberals are now, of course, choosing sides as nominations start to roll in. Where do they stand?
Yeah, Adrienne, it's all about who's got the edge right now. And so far, there are 16 MPs who are backing Chrystia Freeland. That includes 2 cabinet ministers. And there are 13 MPs who are throwing their support behind Carney. But really, this race has just begun.
All right, Ashley Burke in Edmonton. There's still 1 week left for people to enter that leadership race, and we know a couple of big announcements are on the way. A source tells CBC News House Leader Karina Gould will launch her leadership bid this weekend in Burlington, Ontario, and former Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland is expected to do the same in Toronto on Sunday. Well, the carbon tax is set up to be a major wedge issue in the next election. The Conservatives have long fought against it, but as David Thurton shows us, Freeland is now among the Liberals poised to axe it themselves.
Putting a price on carbon is one of Justin Trudeau's big political legacies, but its days seem numbered.
Future governments will make the choices they make, but Canadians can know that it is possible to both fight climate change and put more money in the pockets of the middle class at the same time.
And our climate is changing in ways that
some big names vying to replace him are suggesting if they become Liberal leader, the consumer carbon tax is gone. Mark Carney says any replacement would need to be effective and promise details soon.
I don't do a little leak, I don't do a soundbite, I do a comprehensive plan that addresses all the aspects, and you'll see that in the coming weeks.
Chrystia Freeland, according to a source, is expected to ditch the policy, aiming to replace it with a system that has more public support. As it stands, drivers pay the federal carbon tax at the pump and families pay it on home heating fuel. Many, not all Canadians, get more money back through quarterly rebate checks. But enthusiasm for the policy has dimmed among Liberal MPs.
The carbon tax has been very difficult from a policy perspective.
There's different ways to be able to go about fighting climate change, and if a leader wants to be able to change that, I would fully support it.
And if there's a leadership candidate that's thinking about it, I'm not necessarily going to discourage it.
For years, Conservatives have been calling for an end to the carbon tax, and they continue to do so.
If we had a carbon tax election now, we could elect a strong, stable, national majority government that would stand up for all Canadians.
But with Liberals backing away, it appears the carbon tax could go away, and that could undermine the central ballot question Conservatives have been putting to voters. David Thurton, CBC News, Ottawa.
Trump's tariff threat, the so-called Team Canada response, and the Liberal leadership race at issue is going to tackle all of that in about 20 minutes. Now to some breaking news. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has officially agreed to the ceasefire deal with Hamas, widely confirmed yesterday. Chris Brown is in Jerusalem and shows us the agreement came after a day of finger-pointing, continuing Israeli airstrikes in Gaza, and big concern the deal could unravel.
In Gaza, in the final hours before a possible ceasefire, Israel delivered some of the deadliest strikes of the war against what it says were Hamas targets. Health authorities claim more than 70 people were killed in the last day alone. A Hamas statement said the barrage might also have killed one of the Israeli hostages due to be released, adding to the torment of those who fear the truce could still fall apart.
Hamas have made changes even after the agreement.
Israel's government accused Hamas of trying to torpedo it, which Hamas denied. With intense pressure on to complete the deal, Netanyahu's office later said it had agreed to it with the final vote set for Saturday, resolving what mediators characterized as last-minute snags.
Look, it's not exactly surprising that in a process and a negotiation that has been this challenging and this fraught, you may get a loose end.
This is dirty, bloodthirsty politics at its peak.
7 members of Zohar Avigdori's extended family were kidnapped from Kibbutz Be'eri on October the 7th. Most were released in November of 2023, but Tal Shaham is still in captivity. He wants Israel to complete the deal, even though some hostages, including his relative, will not be returned immediately and possibly not at all.
It gives us very little certainty and clarity about how we're going to get all of the 98 back, and it leaves us with huge distress and anger.
Other Israelis don't want the war to end until Hamas is totally defeated. They carried fake coffins outside of the Prime Minister's office on Thursday. Many of them are related to Israeli soldiers killed in the war.
Don't sign the deal with the Hamas. This deal, it's a very dangerous deal for the hostages that will stay in Gaza.
Israelis may have reservations about whether they're letting Hamas off the hook, but for those in Gaza, the consensus is much clearer. With Israel's military killing dozens every day, the end of hostilities can't come soon enough. Chris Brown, CBC News, Jerusalem.
Well, more than a week into the wildfire crisis gripping Los Angeles, the winds have weakened, but there could be a new threat, landslides. As Cam McIntosh tells us, frustration is growing for tens of thousands of evacuees who just want to go home.
Yes, I have lost my home.
Starting to start over, Judith Carroll knows she lost her home, picking up a few things at a grassroots donation center.
It's helping me a lot.
You have to get above it to really appreciate the scale of the damage. Thousands of homes lost. Authorities conceding rebuilding will involve replanning. Nearly 85,000 people remain under evacuation order. Those that still have homes to go to are being told to wait.
The repopulation of residents in the evacuation order areas will not occur for at least one more week.
Safe is a big question almost everywhere. There's damage to utilities, debris and toxins to clean up, and concerns the fire has left some areas unstable.
It's safe to say that the infrastructure under thousands of homes have been compromised.
This is what they're worried about. This house survived the fire. The ones behind it did not. In the time since, the slope underneath got compromised, mud ran down, the house snapped in half. Amid so much other destruction, call it a cautionary tale. Search and rescue teams continue to scour for about 30 missing people.
There are areas that we are holding because we believe there may be deceased victims there.
Then there's the potential for the next disaster. The fires tore through areas surrounded by slopes, leaving them prone to mudslides.
The water's being observed almost instantaneously.
This watershed emergency response team is looking into it, testing the soil.
They'll know where 75, 100 spots may be problematic for them, and that way they can focus their efforts more effectively.
Most are just focused on getting through this disaster.
It's an ordeal. So, shoot, all you do is move on.
So many people hit by the fires in so many ways. asking, what now? Cameron McIntosh, CBC News, Los Angeles.
With his inauguration on Monday rapidly approaching, Donald Trump has released his official portrait. With a bit of harsh lighting, bit of a dour expression, you could say it's a bit of an evolution from his first inaugural portrait in 2017, which at the time was considered unusually severe. Some are comparing it to his 2023 mugshot, which supporters have embraced as an iconic part of his brand. His Vice President, J.D. Vance, attempts a more relaxed look in his portrait. Both of them ended up on Trump's website with the caption, "Official portraits released, and they go hard?" with many question marks. Already, Donald Trump is facing some hard choices ahead of a U.S. ban on TikTok set to kick in on Sunday. As Nisha Patel explains, Trump is signaling he wants to keep the popular video sharing app from being blocked for 170 million U.S. users.
A new law is set to come into effect Sunday that will ban TikTok across the U.S. But that doesn't mean the app will go dark for good.
That's where ultimately Trump administration is probably going to have to get involved.
The incoming national security advisor says Donald Trump will find a way to preserve the platform.
We're committed to be very transparent with our users.
Trump has also invited TikTok's CEO to attend his inauguration. Though he supported a ban during his previous term, Trump more recently has said he wants to keep the app alive.
We'll take a look at TikTok. You know, I have a warm spot in my heart for TikTok because I won youth by 34 points.
The law passed last year would only allow TikTok to operate in the U.S. under an American owner.
The U.S. government had alleged that data collected from the app on end users' devices was possibly being shared with the Chinese government.
TikTok denies those claims, and millions of Americans seem to care little about the national security concerns, responding to the looming ban by flocking to a similar video app known in English as Rednote.
And we, myself included, downloaded an even more Chinese app and went, here's our data. Now give us the dancing cats.
Experts say Rednote may present similar risks.
These apps, too, could be subject to legal action by the U.S. government in future. The law, as it's currently written, isn't specifically limited to TikTok.
Wow, the box sang when I opened it up.
Dan Rodo earns a living making videos online. If TikTok doesn't survive, he'll feel the loss.
It's extremely disappointing and disheartening.
Rodo, a Canadian, moved to the U.S. 2 years ago to earn more from the content he creates.
I've got 2.9 million followers that are just going to disappear. I won't have access to that audience to be able to sell it to brands for marketing purposes.
So additional photos from he's hoping that TikTok will get a last-minute reprieve. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
The race for space dominance between the world's two richest men hit new heights today with the maiden launch of Jeff Bezos' new rocket.
All 7 engines at full thrust. Checking for pressures are good. Vehicles cleared the tower.
That is the New Glenn rocket blasting off from Florida early this morning. The 30-story tall craft reaching orbit 13 minutes into the flight. This is a major milestone for Blue Origin's decade-long, multi-billion-dollar program as it aims to rival Elon Musk's SpaceX in the satellite launch business. A Nova Scotia woman is speaking out after her former partner shared intimate videos of her online.
I felt stupid. I felt embarrassed.
Why advocates say it's an abuse that can be overlooked. David Lynch, the director who brought the surreal to the screens, has died.
I love going into another world. I love to catch ideas.
And the hats, made popular by Doug Ford.
We went from concept to on the premiere within 1 week.
We're back in 2. Nova Scotia is facing a crisis of intimate partner violence. 6 women have been killed by their partners in 3 months. Tonight, one woman is speaking out after intimate images of her were shared online. She wants people to know this is a form of abuse. Kayla Hounsell brings us her story.
Natalie Brown paints to relax, drawn to the colors, she says, during what has been a pretty dark time.
I was so humiliated. I felt stupid. I felt embarrassed. I felt scared.
Her ordeal began one day while searching for a recipe on the Food Network, when up popped another site starting with F, FetLife, a Canadian social networking site for people interested in fetishism. Brown had stumbled upon a video her partner had shared of her engaged in a sexual act.
I didn't agree to be filmed like that. I didn't want to be filmed like that.
Her now former partner, Connor Dolan, was charged and ultimately pleaded guilty to the distribution of intimate images without consent. He was sentenced to 4 months to be served in the community.
Incarceration is usually reserved for cases that involve a revenge porn type situation where somebody's doing it on purpose to harm the victim or to get back at them for some reason. So in this case, we didn't have that factor.
In court, Dolan said he's tremendously sorry. The judge said this was an act of intimate partner online sexual abuse. No question of it.
The judge saying those words means everything to me.
Brown is sharing her story to raise awareness of intimate partner violence, motivated by a rash of recent murders in Nova Scotia. 6 women have been killed by their male partners within just the past 3 months.
I hear more and more about it.
This lawyer applauds Brown's advocacy.
The public awareness is also increasing, which I think about a lot because so many people don't know that the harm they've experienced is actually illegal.
Brown asked the court to lift a publication ban protecting her identity so she could also shine a light on the difficulties she faced navigating the justice system.
Every time I was scared, I thought, you're not just doing this for you. You're doing this for every woman who has to sit in that shame.
She wants people to know that there are many forms of intimate partner violence and that it always starts somewhere. Kayla Hounsell, CBC News, Halifax.
Well, fans of surreal cinema are mourning the loss of director David Lynch tonight. The dreamy films that made him an icon.
That's Lynch seeing people and finding things in them just by holding his camera and refusing to look away.
And Rosie's here with that issue. Hey there.
Hey, Adrian. Tonight, we will tackle the cracks in the Team Canada response to the tariff threat.
Every single premier other than Danielle Smith then chose to put Canada first.
Will it harm Canada's negotiations with Donald Trump? Andrew Althea and Jason Markusoff join me to talk about that and a whole lot more.
Actor Blake Lively and her husband, Canadian Ryan Reynolds, among the targets tonight of a big money lawsuit. Justin Baldoni, Lively's co-star in the hit film It Ends With Us, is suing the couple for $400 million US for allegedly using their star power to undermine the film, which Baldoni directed. Lively has already sued Baldoni and others involved with the film, alleging a smear campaign against her after she went public with claims of sexual harassment on set. And tributes are flooding in tonight for visionary filmmaker David Lynch. He is being remembered for a body of work that toyed with reality and drew fans into dreamlike worlds. Films like Mulholland Drive made him a 3-time Oscar nominee, and his series Twin Peaks broke ground on TV. Eli Glasner lays out an extraordinary legacy.
Are you the one that found the year?
There's only one way to describe movies such as Blue Velvet, wild at heart, Lynchian. Born in Missoula, Montana, young David Lynch, a literal Boy Scout raised by his loving parents, showed an empathy for the strange with his early films, Eraserhead and The Elephant Man.
I'm not an animal. I am a human being.
Elephant Man's success led him to make the first Dune film.
He chose to make the first version of Dune as a, Victorian nightmare with exaggerated grotesqueries. It's totally his work.
It flopped, but Lynch doubled down, serving up his twisted version of suburbia, Blue Velvet.
It was surreal, it was sexual but dark, and all of these elements.
Whether it was Nicolas Cage, Dennis Hopper, or Naomi Watts, starring in a Lynch film changed careers.
That's Lynch seeing people and finding things in them just by holding his camera and refusing to look away.
Lynch also shaped the small screen with his mix of the mysterious and mundane in the Twin Peaks TV series. But there was another side to Lynch. He was your lovably weird grandpa who recorded weather reports.
Golden sunshine all along the way.
And preached the power of transcendental meditation.
I love going into another world. I love to catch ideas.
His message resonated with celebrities and creators of all kinds.
There really is this through line that exists between mindfulness, in whatever capacity you do it, and art.
Lynch had been diagnosed with emphysema. His family announced his death online, saying, "There's a big hole in the world now that he's no longer with us. But as he would say, keep your eye on the donut and not the hole." David Lynch was 78. Eli Glaster, CBC News, Toronto.
Now let's break down the week in politics. Rosie's here with At Issue.
At Issue tonight, Team Canada premiers are united after a meeting with the Prime Minister, except for Danielle Smith, who is worried Alberta oil will become leverage against Donald Trump.
I don't blame Danielle Smith for speaking up for her industry. That's part of her job. But every single premier other than Danielle Smith then chose to put Canada first.
The leader of the official opposition says this is not the way to face down the president-elect.
The Liberals are trying to divide one province against another.
So should everything be on the table when it comes to Donald Trump? How should Canada respond? I'm Rosemary Barton, here to break it all down. Andrew Coyne, Althea Raj, and in for Chantal Hébert tonight, Jason Markusoff. Nice to see you all. And Jason, as I said to you before we started, grateful that you're here tonight. So I'm going to start with you. If you're outside of Alberta, you're kind of wondering what Danielle Smith is doing. If you're inside of Alberta, you might think that she's doing exactly the right thing. So tell me what you make of her position here.
I mean, I think there's a lot of people who are on both sides of the fence within Alberta right now. She does not deserve, have universal support. Her party is leading in the polls. It forms a majority here, but I think, there are a lot of people who are Alberta firsters here. A lot of people who really value the oil patch and the threats that historically have been levied on it from Ottawa, especially Liberal governments. But a lot of people are Canada first. Here. I think more people would say they're first and foremost a Canadian. In fact, polls show that, than would say that they're first and foremost an Albertan. And that pretty much goes across the country except for Quebec. This was a week that really changed the way that the rest of Confederation's leaders view Danielle Smith. People thought she was a bit populist, maybe a bit unruly as even for conservatives, if there are more traditional conservatives. But this was the week that she took her Alberta first step, to a lot of people's minds, too far. Yeah. Protect the oil patch, certainly, but to say that we won't work on this Team Unanimous Canada approach, I think took people the wrong way. But I think people outside of Alberta, and even those who are detracting her from Alberta, have to understand is that, yes, Doug Ford in Ontario was talking about throttling back his electricity exports, but that's in service of their major to protect tariff impacts against their major industry, the automobile sector. Yeah. In Alberta, this is the be-all, end-all. This is the pit and prune juice. This is the lifeblood. Would Doug Ford have advocated using the auto sector as a bargaining chip? I'm not sure.
Althea, what did you make of it?
Well, everything should be seen to be on the table. I think that's where the error lies. And whether or not it is on the table, that comes later. But everything at the moment should be seen to be on the table. That's how you have a strong negotiating hand. I think Danielle Smith hurt very forcefully Pierre Poilievre because he was unable today in his press conference to take a side against Danielle Smith. He was unwilling to go there, and the Prime Minister of the country should at least be Canada first. For a lot of conservatives, especially Western conservatives, who were really upset by a Bloc Québécois bill just a few months ago that aimed to carve out supply management from any future trade deals, it's rather convenient that when it starts to be about oil, they've completely changed their tune because the rationale is the same. You should not purposefully say out loud to the person negotiating on the other side of you, I'm unwilling to touch this. That's not how you have a strong negotiating hand. That's the point of the Prime Minister. That is the point of all the other premiers who are around that table. Premiers who have their own self-interest, Saskatchewan, Quebec, who surprisingly decided, hey, you know what? We need to be united before we start negotiating, and then we can disagree, ask for compensation in our own industry if needs be, but we need to have a strong hand, and she's hurting everybody by doing what she's doing.
It was interesting, Andrew, to hear people like Scott Moe and, of course, Doug Ford defend the position that they should all be united and everything is on the table. It also, as Althea rightly points out, puts Pierre Poilievre in a difficult position, I think, as well.
Yeah, he didn't take much of a stand one way or the other when he was under questioning. Look, it'd be one thing if we were talking about singling out Alberta, that we were just going to put an export tariff or an export ban on oil and gas or on Alberta's oil and gas. I think a lot of people would say that would be unfair and unwise. But by the same token, there's no case for giving Alberta special treatment, singling them out for special treatment. And if you look at what Premier Smith has been after, that's what she's going for. That's why she went down to Mar-a-Lago on that trip with Kevin O'Leary, was to ask for a carve-out for Alberta's oil and gas on the tariff. Now, let's supposing Donald Trump is shrewd enough to grant her wish, either because he doesn't want to see a spike in oil prices for his consumers or because he just wants to sow chaos and mischief in Canada. Well, in that case, then Alberta and oil and gas would be the only sector that wasn't facing a tariff. And if the feds put on an export tariff on that, that would simply be leveling the playing field across all of the different sectors of Canada's economy. And that's, it seems to me, ought to be the principle that's applied here is a common front, shared sacrifice. If the premiers of other energy-producing provinces, whether oil and gas or hydroelectricity, if Andrew Furey from Newfoundland, if François Legault from Quebec, if Doug Ford from Ontario, if even Scott Moe can sign on to this, why can't Danielle Smith? And I'm not sure what the answer to that is.
Yeah, I wondered, Jason, whether she had got some sort of assurance in Mar-a-Lago that we haven't heard about yet. Like that to me would be the only kind of maybe understanding for this political play. But certainly she hasn't said that, so I don't really understand where she thinks this is going.
I mean, she came out of that Mar-a-Lago visit, supported by Kevin O'Leary, saying that she's convinced that there are going to be no carve-outs, that there are going to be tariffs applied everywhere. So she certainly couldn't hang a mission accomplished banner after that meeting. The history will record that this week and the last several weeks, Danielle Smith has done been far more critical of Justin Trudeau and the Liberal government than Donald Trump or the U.S. coming administration that are threatening this hugely crippling thing. But there is a legacy that Danielle Smith is leaning on. First of all, her own habit of attacking Ottawa every which way. But there is this legacy of punitive taxes and measures punishing and singling out Alberta oil for the benefit of other countries, of other jurisdictions. And to Andrew's point, certainly she's obfuscating the historical link between that and what's happening now, which, as you said, would be probably to equalize the impact and put pressure on the Americans.
Now, if I could just pick up on that point, where she's got a germ of a point is, the rest of Canada, British Columbia and Quebec in particular, were not particularly helpful and not particularly friendly to Alberta when the issue was trying to get Alberta's oil to other markets besides the United States. They were effectively trying to basically landlock them. And when their only available customer is the United States, I can see why you'd say at that point it's a bit rich to be saying that we should be cutting off that our only export market. So fine, maybe one part of this Team Canada United Front thing is we get a little bit more sensible about helping fellow provinces get their oil to market, and things that were previously politically impossible, perhaps for a premier of British Columbia or a premier of Quebec. Maybe in this kind of crisis that can move some of those ice flows.
Last 30 seconds to you, Althea.
I don't know that there's that much more to add. I mean, I think it was actually kind of a sad day for the country. Everybody said this. Doug Ford said this. The Prime Minister said this. We understand why the Premier of Alberta is taking the position that she's taking. But frankly, that's a position she should be taking behind closed doors. That is not a position that you verbalize out loud in the middle of really crucial negotiations with somebody that does not have the country's best interests at heart.
Okay, we're going to leave it there. I guess we'll see what the president-elect does early next week and then whether this conversation moves in a different direction. But when we come back, we are going to take a look at the Liberal leadership race.
This is no time for politics as usual. No, it's not the time for lifelong politicians such as Pierre Poilievre.
Mark Carney has entered the race for Liberal leader, and he came out swinging against the Conservatives. That's next. At issue, Liberal leadership. Mark Carney has officially entered the race.
I'm back home in Edmonton to declare my candidacy for leader of the Liberal Party.
As the Conservatives try to paint him as more of the same, Carney came out swinging against Pierre Poilievre.
Well, I'm focused on building our economy. He's out chasing endorsements from Donald Trump and Elon Musk.
Freeland and Gould are also expected to announce in the coming days, with Freeland saying she's ready to scrap the consumer carbon tax. So lots to talk about there. Is the carbon tax dead? How are leadership candidates positioning themselves? Andrew, Althea, and Jason are back. Althea, I'm going to start with you. Let's start on that issue of the carbon tax, because you wrote about that today. The fact that Freeland is going to ditch it. Sounds like Carney is headed down that road as well. How does that change this race and potentially the election too?
Well, what he's told Liberal MPs, so both Freeland and Mark Carney have been on the phone trying to get endorsements and trying to get people's networks to join their team. And he has told MPs who have raised a lot of concerns about the carbon price that he will walk away from the consumer price on carbon. He will focus on large industrial emitters. But he will also recognize that actually the government's rationale was correct, that more money went into more people's pockets. And in order to continue along that and to stress that point, he will offer, he has told them, a middle-class tax cut. So they seem actually quite happy about this plan. And it does take away, I would say, one bullet that Pierre Poilievre has been repeatedly using. He's dubbed Mr. Carney carbon tax Carney. And so I think in the eyes of people, if they think that that issue is off the table now, and frankly, I think Donald Trump's return to the White House really has changed the focus. And we talked about that a little bit last week. But you know, the chances that we fight the next election, even if it's in March, on the carbon price is really, really low. We will probably be fighting the next election on who is going to be the best Captain Canada, who can defend Canada's interest vis-a-vis renegotiation of CUSMA with regards to Donald Trump, defend the border, how we're going to address the economic crisis this country faces. And so, and in that vein, I think despite Mr. Poilievre's best efforts to either attack on the carbon price, call for a carbon election, or now even on the capital gains inclusion rate increase, which Mr. Carney has also told MPs he's going to get rid of. You know, a lot of the bullets that, to keep that analogy going, that Pierre Poilievre had are vanishing. Like these are no longer the things that he needs to be focusing on.
So give me your take, Andrew, about how you thought Mark Carney made the case for himself today, saying, you know, these are not usual times, and so we need someone who's not a usual politician, sort of addressing the elephant in the room right away. Yeah, well, not a politician generally, which is a strength and a weakness. So he has a bit more, maybe a little more distance from the current government and current prime minister. Particularly, I think that will be more apparent in his messaging than in his biography. In other words, yes, he's been advising them, but it's pretty clearly he's coming out and being quite critical of them in terms of loss of focus in the economy, not emphasizing growth enough, et cetera. We'll see whether that's enough. But this is an extraordinary thing he's attempting, which is we've never seen anybody in our history attempt to step into the prime minister's office without ever having held elected office or run in an election before. You know, it's not an entry-level job. And to do so in the middle of in a minority government that's on its last legs with in the middle of a national crisis is, you know, it takes moxie or guts or foolery. I'm not sure exactly which. We've seen in the last week both of his strengths and weaknesses. He was very good, obviously, on Jon Stewart. He's good off the cuff. He's good in an unscripted setting. Not so good, at least at this point, at giving a speech. I think he took a lot of the air out of the room. But that's the sort of thing presumably one can get better at over time. I'll just say, just in passing,
you know, it's a real shame that we're going to give up on carbon pricing in this country, because it's not like we're going to save consumers money. They're going to pay one way or the other. They're going to pay for all the regulatory schemes that are going to replace it, only they're not going to have the offsetting rebates. So it may be smart politics. They take away both Justin Trudeau and carbon pricing from the conservative targets, but at the real cost to sensible public policy in this country.
Yeah, there was a lot in the speech. You know, we were talking about it in the newsroom, but it was a little flat. So we'll see whether he can get there, because he doesn't have an awful lot of time to get better at that kind of thing. Jason, give me your take on how he did and whether the carbon tax is really actually dead now at this stage.
I mean, the Conservatives have put so much emphasis and so much of the definition of the government and in Carney specifically on the carbon tax that I think they'll figure out their ways to, resurrect it or argue against it. What will be interesting to see is if they wind up becoming against all carbon policy or all climate policy, including the industrial carbon tax that even Alberta has consistently supported. First of all, Andrew talked about him that he has time to change things. Not really. We're talking about March 9th to 6 weeks or so to become leader and then to almost instantly run an election. That is not a lot of time to hone your chops while building. His outsider thing is going to be tricky for people if he's also simultaneously boasting that he's restored the economy of two major G7 countries.
What are you waiting to see from Chris? Oh, go ahead, Althea. Go ahead.
I know Chantal's not here, but I think we need to say Carney's French was terrible. Yeah. Like terrible. Almost worse, I think, than when last time I saw him in September in Nanaimo. I don't know if he's not been practicing, if he doesn't have enough French staff, but he was making grammatical errors in his written speech. Yeah. And, if I was Christy Clark watching that, I would wonder why I decided not to run. Because if that's what is my competition, maybe my French wasn't so bad. That is going to be a huge handicap. I don't know what his organization looks like in Quebec, but he really needs to work hard in French, because that's not a passable grade.
Or he finds someone who can bring him Quebec, right? Someone that could support him and bring him Quebec.
But in an election, I mean, he is the one that's going to be doing a debate. If he wins, he would be the one doing the debate. Pierre Poilievre, whose French is excellent. Yeah. François Blanchet would, I don't know if Mark Carney would be able to get a word in. It was really bad.
I also speak French like you, Althea. I thought it was okay, but I also thought he was very clearly nervous, and maybe that colored it. I don't know, but
he was better in the scrum. He was better in the scrum. To Andrew's point as well about the speech, maybe he should stop doing speeches. But
okay, quick last word to you, Andrew. Quick last word to you.
He stays within a very narrow range in French. Look, in normal circumstances, I don't think he'd be a candidate. But we're not in normal circumstances. The party is in such trouble, and the case for his candidacy, I think, really hinges on Trump. So it's the two things. One is that there's no perfect candidate out there for the Liberals at this point, and Ms. Freeland has her own, failings and drawbacks. But also, the case that can be made for him, or they'll try to make for him, is, who do you want standing up to Donald Trump? Who do you want in the same room with him? Yeah. Who's got the cool, who's got the experience to be able to stand up to him?
Yeah. Okay, we'll leave it there. Althea, I know Chantal will appreciate you channeling her today. Thank you all very much. Jason, thanks for being here. With that, I'll send things back to Adrian in Toronto.
Thanks, Rosie. Coming up, the hat making waves across the country.
We've made over $450,000 worth of sales in the last 24 hours alone.
How the design landed on Doug Ford's head in our moment. When Ontario Premier Doug Ford wore this hat yesterday, he was sending a message to Donald Trump. And in case you didn't catch it, that message is, Canada is not for sale. In the process, Ford may have started something. Because people seem to like that hat, and the couple that started the business making it is now overflowing with orders. So tonight, their newfound success and their national pride makes our moment.
Yeah, just beyond my wildest dreams, our wildest dreams. My fiance Emma and I were watching Premier Ford on Fox News, and Jesse Waters made some sort of absolutely outrageous comment.
I would consider it a privilege to be taken over by the United States of America.
And Emma and I looked at each other and we said, you know, it's a privilege to be Canadian. Canada is the best country in the world. Why is this guy saying this? And we spun up a Shopify store with some hats that we thought really convey a message that needed to be said. And, you know, we went from concept to on the premiere within 1 week.
First of all, I'll talk about the hat that I'm wearing.
It was at that point we kind of looked at each other and said, like, who knows where this could go? We've made over $450,000 worth of sales in the last 24 hours alone. So just wild ride. You know, people from all political persuasions, all political parties are uniting around this idea. And, you know, if President Trump thinks that he's going to scare Canadians, he's wrong. And he's poked the bear, and we've woken up.
Good thinking, eh? So a week, that timeline. Even before it landed on the Premier's head, they got a message from the president of Shopify within that first week saying he had also bought one. Now, of course, they're branching out. They've got stickers and toques, of course. From all of us at The National, thank you for being with us. You can watch anywhere, anytime on the free CBC News app and subscribe to The National's YouTube channel. I'm Adrienne Arsenault. Take care.